Welcome to the Goodvertising Awards Couch Conversations. My name is Thomas Kolster and I am the founder behind the Goodvertising movement and also the jury chairman of the Goodvertising Awards. And the whole idea about this is to have an exciting conversation and in-depth knowledge about one of the winners of the Goodvertising Awards. And the Goodvertising Awards are really celebrating the most exciting, impactful work out there. And you cannot enter the awards, you are being selected. The three criteria we are looking at is impact, potential, and creativity. And one of the winners here today that we've been joined by is, and congratulations to Pay It Forward for Big Issue by FCB Inferno. And we are joined by Lara from Big Issue, who's the executive director. So welcome, Lara, and congratulations.
Thank you.
And we're also joined by Owen, who is the chief creative officer of FCB Inferno. So welcome, Owen, and congratulations.
Thanks very much.
So let's just kick this off with just kind of diving into what is the Pay It Forward initiative about, Lara?
So in a nutshell, Pay It Forward made the Big Issue the world's first resellable magazine. And the reason that that's particularly exciting for an organisation like ours and for the people we exist to support is that Big Issue sellers are out trying to earn a living every day. They have access to the customers that pass them on their pitch, on the street, on a daily basis. Obviously, those numbers can fluctuate, and we are fighting. I mean, even this year aside, this unprecedented year aside, we were battling against a number of trends, including the decline of the high street, a move to cashlessness, and the decline in consumption of print media, and you know, people shifting their media consumption habits to digital. So in the face of that, we went to FCB with the challenge that we needed to ensure our vendors could still earn a living and indeed, ideally, make selling the magazine more lucrative. And what they came back to us with was a means of making each copy go further, really. So each copy of the magazine could be sold to a customer who could then sell it on and on and on, enabling the vendors to continue earning from that initial sale via that kind of network. And that scheme was enabled by obviously the efforts of FCB, but also in partnership with Monzo, who came on board to equip our vendors or support us to equip our vendors with the tools and skills they would need to be able to transact in that way. So that was, you know, that's really a big piece of work around financial and digital inclusion.
I think that's exactly what I really loved about this initiative, that it's kind of tackling two issues at once, both the idea about us moving to a cashless society and obviously, you know, how do you tackle that issue that people aren't consuming as much print media anymore. Owen, these are definitely not easy ideas to make. So for people out there in creative industry who's curious about it, what does it take to kick off an initiative like that?
Well, I think it takes tenacity. I mean, because these ideas haven't been done before, and you have to think around problems. You know, you can hit a stumbling block, as Lara said. You know, a lot of Big Issue vendors don't have a fixed abode, so they can't get a bank account. Now, that could have stopped this initiative in its tracks, but we decided to not give up. We approached a forward-thinking bank, Monzo, and they said, well, you know what? We can make the Big Issue their fixed abode, their address. That gets around that problem. That allows them to have a bank account. You know, so there's a million and one things that you can stop you doing one of these ideas, but you've really got to keep going. You've got to have a great client, by the way, who's also prepared to push along with you, because I think, you know, sometimes it's easy to take the path of least resistance, but you've really got to keep on going at these ideas to get them to live, essentially.
Yeah, it does seem like to tackle some of these complicated issues, collaboration is really the key, just between client and agency and a lot of the other partners that needs to be involved in making these things happen. Lara, obviously this is, and this is one of the things that I really loved about this initiative, this potential to create change. Could you maybe just give us a bit of insight in terms of where's this initiative at right now, and what are some of the key lessons that you have learned since, I think it's been going on for now a year and a half or so, right?
Yeah, so we had the initial pilot phase, and then the program ran for a number of months after that. I think for us, it's really been quite a fundamental driver in developing our understanding of those barriers that our vendors, that vulnerable people face in terms of accessing the sorts of services that you and I take for granted. So it really helped us to get under the skin of those issues, and then to develop a fully fledged financial and digital inclusion strategy, really, which we've been rolling out ever since. I think what it also provided us with, because, you know, we've been wrestling with some of these issues for a long time, and what it also provided us with was the impetus to really start to look at other ways that we could enable our vendors to earn that perhaps didn't require them to be stood on their pitch, you know, the other means of generating an income effectively. So I would say it was the forerunner to things like our latest subscription drive, which has been absolutely necessary under current conditions where vendors are actually unable to be out on their pitches earning. So now we can, people can purchase a subscription online with the funds going directly back to those individual vendors. And I think without Pay It Forward and everything we learned via that initiative, and, you know, that drive towards getting vendors bank accounts and enabling them to transact online, some of these things just wouldn't have been possible. So yeah, it was a really vital piece of work, and obviously for those vendors who participated, you know, really you know, hugely beneficial just in terms of their sort of personal circumstances and the money they earned as a result of taking part.
So it does seem like a lot of things are, you know, needed to make things like these happen. Or do you think, you know, the creative industry have the sort of entrepreneurial mindset that's needed? Because obviously we've always been so focused on the big idea, but in many of these instances, it almost does seem like we need to play by different rules.
Yeah, definitely. We're no longer doing just advertising. We're no longer doing posters, TV, print. We're trying to solve clients' problems in unique ways. And that does mean, you mentioned it, it means collaboration between everyone. So it is client and agency, but also within the agency. I don't think you can any longer just have a creative department. Well, I don't like that phrase anyway, because it presupposes other departments aren't creative. But you've got to have every single department in the building, the creative producers, you've got to have the account management, the strategists, all really working together. And in this case, we're also pulling in partners in a bank. Do you know what I mean? So we brought in another organisation to get this to work. And you know what? It's exciting when you do that. That's the thing I'd like people to remember, is it's much, much more interesting than writing a poster, because you get to meet all kinds of different people, you get to solve problems in different ways, and hopefully, I think at the end of it, you get a really special piece of work, which, as Lara said, has been transformational for the business. So if you can do that, suddenly advertising is becoming a more exciting career than it ever was.
Yeah, I think it's definitely what resonates with me in this project as well, and something I see across other initiatives is, in fact, that you start out with an initial thought and then a project actually pivots. And I'm really happy, Lara, that you say that what actually have come out of this is pretty crucial insights that you can build on in terms of, for example, launching the subscription model. In terms of the on-the-ground reality, obviously, now faced with the pandemic and the challenges being homeless during these very, very difficult times, what were some of the upsides that you saw from your vendors, from the people on the street? Did they see a rise in sales? Did they see new people suddenly coming and buying? The big issue, obviously, now, because you don't need to have cash on you, but you know, it's been enabled by a cashless option as well.
Yes, so cashlessness per se has well, as I say, this has been a highly unusual year for everybody, but cashlessness is having a positive impact on sales, absolutely. You know, it was one of the major obstacles to purchase previously. So that's definitely prompted an uptick in sales. And as I say, pay it forward was really a driving force in that move to cashlessness, because what it did quite crucially was it incentivized vendors to become cashless. So although you know, we could tell homeless people till we're blue in the face, you will sell more magazines if you get yourself a bank account and you equip yourself with the skills and the tools, and we'll support you to do that. But I think the reality is that, you know, lots of the people with whom we work are very reticent and nervous, because they have no experience of engaging with the world in this way. So creating an incentive whereby we say, actually, if you've got this, then each magazine is going to work that much harder for you. It drew far more people into that kind of cashless model. So that was a really important upside for the individuals and the organisation. I think, you know, beyond that, it was about, I think for us, the work was the concept was so exciting because it just ticks so many different boxes. So it was, you know, increasing vendors' earning potential, fantastic. Increasing, you know, making the magazine more relevant in the sense of, you know, a younger audience or people who don't carry cash are able to access the product. And then I think it was about, you know, harnessing our loyal customer base and turning them into real advocates for their vendors and for the cause. So we know that the reason that the magazine continues to be successful and the reason that you know, we continue to sell lots of copies despite some of these kind of wider societal trends being against us. You know, we've bucked lots of trends in terms of print media, is because our customers are so loyal to their vendors and they develop that relationship with them. So to be able to leverage that to effectively sell more magazines and create that sort of ripple effect where we are converting new buyers potentially, you know, that was one of the aims really, was that, you know, they'd go out, tell a friend who tell a friend who tell a friend, and suddenly you've got a whole new pool of prospective buyers who are kind of converted to the mission and the cause. So yeah, lots and lots of upside for us, I think.
And definitely, I think that I really loved about it, and the fact that, you know, when buying one of the magazines and I read it, I have it lying around at home, and then suddenly me being able to kind of, when I have guests or whatever, kind of pass that on and become an advocate for the cause. I absolutely love that. Owen, one thing I thought about was obviously how do you get an idea like this to Lara? What did it take? Was this a super easy sell, or how did you bring this idea forward?
Well, I mean, it's really interesting actually that as Lara said, it probably unbeknown to us ticks a lot more of her boxes than we actually set out to do in the first place, which is another exciting sort of ramification of having this kind of idea, is it unlocks all kinds of other issues. So, you know, to Lara, I think it probably, when she saw it, was, this isn't going to be easy, but it's a no-brainer. We need to do this because it's done all the things that she just said it did. So, and I think we have a very good working relationship. We do come with lots of very creative ideas. In fact, we've got some very interesting creative ideas we've been working on during the pandemic, which we're really excited about. And that is the kind of relationship we have with the Big Issue. In the past, we've done Change Please with the Big Issue when we got vendors to actually sell coffees. We've got a bit of a history of doing sort of groundbreaking creative thinking to move the brand forward. And I think, you know, when you've got an organisation that obviously can't afford to have commercial budgets, creative thinking becomes that much more important because it means it can punch above its weight. So that's what we try to do together, and so far so good.
Mm.
And Change Please is definitely another initiative that's definitely worth to check out for our communities. If you haven't seen that initiative, also a brilliant way of thinking about new ways of generating income for the vendors, and actually, for me, giving them important skills to go forward and maybe come back to a more normal working and social life. Lara, in terms of collaboration between agency and client, because it does seem like you almost have a sort of reciprocity going back and forward. Do you have any good advice for our community? How do you create a good collaborative environment, a working environment between agency and client?
That's a really good question. I mean, I would put it all down to the team at FCB, really. I would say in the time we've been working with them, we've seen more unique ideas come our way than we have ever in the history of working with agencies. Perhaps we shouldn't include that bit. But they genuinely have really got to grips with those challenges, those complex challenges. This is not just about, repositioning a legacy brand in the minds of consumers. It's way beyond that. It's about how do we fundamentally further our mission, and I think and do a better job of supporting the people that we're here to support. So I think that they really understood that this was way beyond a messaging challenge, as Owen's alluded to. So yeah, we've just been so consistently impressed by the team there at every level, whether it's creatives or account management or project managers or PR, or everybody has just has really pulled together and got behind these different ideas. And as I say, even the ideas that perhaps never see the light of day are really thoughtful and I guess groundbreaking in their own way, even if they're directions that that we've perhaps paths we haven't taken. They've just come up with some really interesting ideas that get to the nub of what the organisation's all about, which is about creating opportunity, really.
I mean, this is where Lara and I flatter one another, because I have to say, you can't do ideas like this without a client that's open-minded to them and prepared to go the extra mile and try things that haven't been done before. Most clients set you a brief and they would quite like it if it fitted into traditional media that is easy to buy and easy to get. It's not easy putting off ideas like this, and Lara's team are always up for it. So it is, you said it, Thomas, it's a collaborative thing. It really is. And when you've got all people collaborating, that's when you get really great ideas through, I think.
Great. I think this has been extremely insightful, and I think some of the key lessons, at least we've learned today, is obviously collaboration is one of the key themes. I think it's about having a much more entrepreneurial mindset, and maybe also embracing some of those newfound ideas that come along the way. Is there any one other thing that you want to say that's kind of needed to do this sort of thing that can inspire our community of people who are looking at trying to do more work like this? Do you have an insight, Lara, that you'd like to share?
I think probably it echoes a little bit what Owen said about the way that FCB Inferno choose to approach these challenges, which is that it has to be it's an organisational effort. If this was the preserve of the marketing and comms team, it would never get off the ground. The reality of equipping vendors with the skills and tools they need required a gargantuan effort on the part of our already stretched frontline teams, because it's really about hand-holding right the way through a process. Lots of encouragement to bring people on board with an idea, and then to upskill them and help them to access the bank accounts or whatever tools it might be that they need, whether that's cashless payment, so it required enormous input from those frontline teams, then plus the traditional stuff, in terms of we're pretty good at PR. We don't have big budgets, so we know how to make a lot of noise. So I think it's that kind of really broad collaborative effort internally as well as externally that made this possible, that we don't operate in those kind of silos. We can't, we have to be more fleet-footed than that.
So breaking down the silos, do you have another last little tip to our community of change makers, Owen?
Well, I think I would say, first of all, purpose-driven work is amazingly rewarding. It helps us all sleep at night. I think it means you have more interesting conversations. As I said, you meet more interesting organisations. It takes you outside of your day job in many ways, which is exciting. And you know what? When you say to your friends you work in advertising, the first thing they want to know is what you've done, and being able to say you've done stuff for good. And we're not all just selling commercial products. We're doing a great deal of work in the for good space, whether that be for commercial brands doing good or it being not-for-profit organisations also helping the world. So, you know, I would encourage anyone to do it for the good of their soul.
And I think that's a really good closing remark. And actually, the very first thing that inspired me more than a decade ago to kickstart this movement. And obviously, Goodvertising is a community for people who believe in advertising and business as a force for good. I want to congratulate both of you again, Owen and Lara, and thank you so much for joining me. And for people who want to know more about the community and really want to combine the creative skill sets, the business acumen with a big part, Goodvertising, the Goodvertising community is definitely there for you guys to come and join. So thank you all, and congratulations, Owen and Lara.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Thomas.